So how many times have you heard this phrase, don't worry? Who was it that said this to you? I mean, maybe you remember that all too familiar song by Bobby McFerrin, don't worry, be happy. Now, I don't know about you, but when people tell me not to worry, it only seems to exacerbate my worry. Don't worry. Your job is not in jeopardy. Don't worry. There'll be enough for rent at the end of the month. Don't worry. The test results will be fine. Don't worry. You won't have a problem the next time you try to start a family. Don't worry. Everything will be fine. You just need to have a little more faith. Don't worry. That police officer that you just passed wasn't really looking at your speed. Don't worry, right? I've been in some situations, and like many of you, I've lived through them, sometimes worrying every step of the way. After losing a job, I worried that I wouldn't be able to find work to provide for my family. When our daughters were born, I worried that they wouldn't make it out of the hospital. When my marriage seemed to be falling apart, I worried that I wouldn't be able to get it back. If I reflect on many of those times when worry seemed to overtake me, I can point to one major and unifying factor in my worry. I couldn't see the big picture. I couldn't see how a particular situation was going to end up, or worse yet, how it would end positively. Then again, if I think about what I just said here, I realize that there are a lot of I statements. It was all about me, about how things could turn out in my life for me. The big picture I wanted to see was that of my hopes and dreams. And when it didn't look like it was going to turn out the way I wanted, I would worry. It reminds me of Peter in the boat. He calls out to Jesus and asks if he can come out of the boat and onto the water with Jesus. Sure, he says. Come on out. It'll be all right. And it was, until Peter took his eyes off Jesus and started to notice the waves. It was only then that Peter started to sink. You see, when we start to worry, we take our eyes off of Jesus. We begin to think more about ourselves, our wants and our needs, our desires. And then we start to drown in our worry. We become anxious about everything, and the world becomes a scary place. Peace eludes us as we can't see past our worry. This is what Paul is talking about in the passage from Philippians chapter 4, verses 4 through 7. So listen to it again. We're going to read it from the Message translation. Celebrate God all day, every day. Revel in Him. Make it clear as you can to all you meet that you're on their side, working with them and not against them. Help them to see that the Master is about to arrive. He could show up at any minute. Don't fret or worry. Instead of worrying, pray. Let petitions and praises shape your worries into prayers, letting God know your concerns. Before you know it, a sense of God's wholeness, everything coming together for good, will come and settle you down. It's wonderful what happens when Christ displaces worry at the center of your life. God's peace will settle us down. God's peace will ease the worry away. God's peace will let us know that everything will be all right because God's presence is with us. Don't pay attention to the waves, the distractions of this life. Keep your eyes focused on Jesus and the kingdom of God, and peace will come. That is God's promise to us today. From the Field Journal, October 8th, 2020.